Once upon a time, in a quiet village nestled among towering mountains and sprawling meadows, lived a boy named Thomas. He was known for his bright eyes and contagious laughter, but behind his cheerful face, he carried the weight of several problems that seemed to overshadow his days. In the modest cottage where Thomas lived with his parents, life was far from easy. His father, Mr. Thompson, worked long hours as a carpenter, struggling to make ends meet. His mother, Mrs. Thompson, worked as a seamstress, but her earnings were barely enough to cover the family's basic needs. Every morning, Thomas woke to the sound of his parents' hushed conversations. They spoke in worried tones about unpaid bills, dwindling food supplies, and the uncertainty of the future. Despite his own worries, Thomas noticed another child in trouble at school, Peter, who wore thick glasses and walked with a slight limp, was an easy target for bullies. Thomas's heart sank as he watched Peter's shoulders slump in defeat. Determined to help, Thomas approached the bullies and stood up for Peter, telling them to leave him alone. He offered to walk to school with Peter every day, grateful for the support. Peter smiled through his tears and accepted Thomas's offer. As they walked together, Peter shared his struggles. He explained how he found school difficult because he couldn't see the blackboard clearly and how the other kids made fun of him for it. Thomas listened with empathy, realizing that everyone had their own battles to fight. At school, Thomas faced challenges of his own. He was a diligent student, but it was hard to concentrate in class when his mind was filled with worries about his family's financial situation. Math in particular frustrated him. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't seem to grasp it. One day, Thomas stayed after school to ask his teacher, Miss Adams, for help with his math homework. He confessed his struggles and his fear of falling behind. Miss Adams smiled warmly and reassured him that it was okay to ask for help. Together, they worked through the problems step by step. With Miss Adams' support, Thomas began staying after school regularly for extra help. With her guidance and his own determination, he slowly improved in math and gained confidence in himself. Despite his progress at school, the worry in Thomas's heart only grew heavier. His family's financial troubles were getting worse, and he could see the toll it was taking on his parents. One evening, Thomas overheard them speaking in hushed tones about mounting debts, overdue rent, and the looming threat of eviction. Tears welled up in his eyes as he realized how serious their situation was. Determined to make a difference, Thomas began brainstorming ways to help his family. He took on odd jobs around the village, mowing lawns, washing dishes, and running errands for neighbors. Every penny he earned went toward helping his parents, but it never seemed to be enough. One day, while walking home from school, Thomas stumbled upon a flyer advertising a local talent show. The grand prize was a substantial sum of money, enough to pay off his family's debts and secure their future. Excited by the possibility, Thomas rushed home to share the news with his parents. At first, they hesitated. They worried Thomas would be disappointed if he didn't win and didn't want him to face another setback. But Thomas was determined. He reassured them that he had a plan and that he wouldn't give up without a fight. With his parents' reluctant support, Thomas threw himself into preparing for the talent show. He practiced his guitar every spare moment, honing his skills and perfecting his performance. The day of the talent show arrived, and the village hall buzzed with excitement. Thomas took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage, his heart pounding in his chest. As he strummed the first chords of his song, he poured his heart and soul into the music, channeling all his hopes and dreams. The audience fell silent as Thomas's voice filled the room, raw with emotion and determination. When he finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. The applause was thunderous as Thomas took a bow, his cheeks flushed with pride. In the end, Thomas didn't win the grand prize, but he won something far more valuable: the admiration and support of his community. Moved by his courage and resilience, the villagers came together to raise money for Thomas's family, ensuring they had a roof over their heads and food on the table. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Thomas hugged his parents tightly, tears of joy streaming down his face. In that moment, he realized that with love, determination, and the support of those who cared, Even the hardest challenges could be overcome. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Thomas's family continued to face new challenges, but they faced them together, with a newfound sense of strength and unity. And as for Thomas, he knew that no matter what obstacles life placed in his path, he would always find a way to rise above them. With a song in his heart and a smile on his face,